Welcome, everyone. I'm Denise Malavides. I'm the program coordinator here at the Bridgman Library, and Mary Spencer is wonderful, and she is doing the program from her home. And today, Mary Spencer has been a culinary instructor for over 20 years. Her professional cooking career began when she donated charitable auction dinners and cooking classes to the downtown Detroit YMCA and the Northville Parks and Recreation. These dinners were a tremendous success and encouraged Mary to become a professional culinary instructor. By way of background, Mary learned to cook from attending some 200 cooking seminars from acclaimed chefs, including Jacques Pepin, Milos Chikla, and Nicholas Malgiri. She has taught cooking classes at a number of Detroit Metro cooking equipment stores, including Kitchen Glamour, Kitchen Witch, Scotty's Kitchen, and ABC Warehouse. She is presently the owner of Taste, a cook's place, a cooking school and cooks resource center situated in Plymouth, Michigan. Mary has conducted numerous classes for corporations, service organizations, and individuals. She has been a guest lecturer at the U of M Sociology Department and Michigan State University. Her class repertoire includes over 1,000 class-tested cooking presentations covering a wide range of topics. And her personal library holds over 5,500 cookbooks. Welcome, Mary.
Thank you, Denise. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Welcome. So you're back here on my patio, and my grill is back here. We're using a propane grill today to do our pizzas, and my son-in-law is actually going to be doing the actual grilling of the pizza. I'm going to be kind of talking about it, so you'll be able to see him back here actually putting the dough on the grill and so forth. So we grill a lot of pizzas here at home. It's a wonderful alternative to a lot of different meals, and it's really easy to do. These days you can buy your own dough, so you could go to an Italian market. I know if you guys are in my area, there's an Italian market that actually sells dough. Some pizza places actually will sell you raw dough as well. So if you want to take it home and grill your own pizzas, I know that there's a few places that will do that. But I find that it's really easy to make your own dough. So we're going to make our own dough. And the only thing that you may need to use is you may need to buy some bread flour. I use bread flour for making pizza dough because it makes it a little bit stretchier. Bread flour is high in gluten, and gluten is what makes bread and things kind of stretch and kind of like chewy. So that's why you would use a bread flour or a high gluten flour when you're making pizza dough, just because it is a stretchier dough, and it makes a better pizza, in my opinion. So I have here, and I think Denise has the recipes. If you haven't gotten them or whatever, we'll get them out to you. But so I've got basically, my basic recipe is some pizza bread dough, and it's about 3.5 cups. I reserve about 1/2 cup to make sure, sometimes you maybe add too much water. You might have, the humidity outside might be a lot, so you might have to add more flour. So, you got to take into consideration the climate conditions where you're at, because humidity kind of puts more moisture in your flour, and it makes you so that you end up having to add more flour when you're making a dough. So I have here just my 3.5 cups of bread flour. I have some salt. I have some sugar, and that's basically it. And what we're going to do is, I always make my pizza dough in the food processor. It's really simple to do, just takes a few minutes. So I have my food processor, and we're just going to dump all of that flour and such right into it. And then I'm using some instant rise yeast, fast acting. And this is a yeast that does not have to be proofed. So if you're familiar with proof yeast, basically regular yeast, you have to proof it. And that means to put it in some warm water and let it sit so that it will start to bubble, and you can tell whether or not it is a yeast that is actually active. Instant yeast is a yeast that actually is added straight to the flour, and it makes it a lot easier to do. So, if you do use instant yeast, make sure that it's pretty new, that you haven't, bought it a year ago and it's been sitting in your pantry. So just, if you're going to make some pizza, just make sure it's good yeast. So I'm going to add the yeast to the flour, and then I have a little bit of olive oil. So this is about 2 tablespoons of, extra virgin olive oil. All right, so that goes in. And then I'm going to put the lid on my food processor. And this is super easy to do, guys. I love doing it this way just because it isn't, it really don't have to, stir a lot. You don't have to knead a lot because the food processor will knead it for you too. So I have here about a cup and a half of water that's between the temperatures of 95 to 112 to 115 degrees. How do you know? Well, you just take your faucet and you run your faucet in the warm water, take an instant read thermometer and hold it under the running water. And when it reads like at least 110, I go, if I think about it, it's like putting my finger in bath water. It should be warm as bath water, maybe a little less warm. If you like a hot bath, a little bit less warm. But, it will, if it's too hot, it will kill the yeast. If it's too cold, the yeast will not activate. So you have to remember that. So I'm going to turn on the food processor and let that dough kind of, move around and get mixed. I'm going to start adding my water to this. And I add it slowly because I want to make sure that I don't add too much. So once I add the water and I can kind of see that the food processor, the dough, the flour is getting a little bit wet. And I don't know if you guys can see that or not. I'm going to add more water. Don't add all the water at one time. If it says a cup and a half of water, you may only need a cup. You may only need a cup and a quarter. So always go a little bit under. So, you don't put too much in. I'm going to put in a little bit more and it will start picking up all the flour around the outside of the bowl. And a little bit more. And there we go. It's kind of starting to pick it all up. A little bit more. And now you can see that dough is kind of starting to bunch up together and form kind of a ball. And that's exactly what I want it to do. Once it forms a ball, add just a pinch more water. I want that to kind of clear the bowl and start to roll around so that it basically picks up all the dough from around the outside of the bowl. All right, so at this point, this dough, I'm kneading it. Okay, letting it process like this, I'm actually kneading it. So you don't have to manually knead it. The food processor will do it for you, okay? All right, so I'm not going to use this dough because I have dough that I made earlier. All right, so this is the dough that we used now. And what I'm going to do is just pull it out and take it right out of the food processor, right? Just like this. And get rid of this. So can you take that to me? And then what I'm going to do is just take a little tiny bit more bread flour and just kind of knead that dough just for a second on my board. I could have kneaded it more in the food processor, but you guys kind of get the picture on that. I want that dough to be pretty smooth. So kneading it just like this, all right, works beautifully. And I could do that for another couple minutes, but like I said, I already have some dough. We don't need to do that right now. I'm going to take a little bit of oil and I have a bowl here. All right. So just a little tiny drop of oil, nothing big. And I am going to take my dough and the top part, I kind of call the smooth part the top part. So I take that top part and I just swish it around in the bowl and flip it over just like that. Super easy. Put it somewhere warm. Typically in my kitchen, it's like on top of the stove. If I'm cooking, I get it away from any heat or anything like that. And I put it on top of the stove and then I cover it with plastic wrap. Okay, so I have some plastic wrap and then I may put a towel on it. In the winter, it's a little more challenging because people's houses aren't quite as warm as they are in the summer. But, typically in the winter, if I'm making pizza dough, I'll throw it next to even next to a heating duct and the heating vent, and not on top of it, but next to it, because you don't want it to have direct heat. So within about an hour, maybe 2 hours, depending on how much you let this, how warm your home is and how warm that place is where you're going to let this rise, you'll end up with dough that looks like this. Okay, so it will at least double in size. And that's exactly what you want. All right.
What type of blade did you use to mix it?
To be honest with you, I just used the regular chopping blade. You can switch it and you can use, just the regular, the blade with the metal blade. And it, I've never really, I think maybe once or twice I've ever used the dough blade. The metal blade works beautifully. I make pastry dough in my food processor. I make dough for cinnamon rolls, everything, anything you can possibly imagine. It just works so easily. So I am going to now make a little bit of sauce. You can, a lot of times if you're in a pinch and you don't want to make your own sauce, you could actually just go to the grocery store and have it in your pantry, so that when you want to whip up a pizza, it's super easy and you have the ingredients. You can either buy a jar of pizza sauce at the store. Sometimes we'll just use a jar of marinara sauce, like a prepared marinara. Works out beautifully. It tastes, one that you like, one that tastes really good, because it's just basically a simple tomato sauce. That's all you're looking for. And we are going to make a very simple tomato sauce here. So I have a little food processor here, and I have some chopped diced tomatoes in a can. I've got some garlic. We're going to throw that in, and I like all the garlic. So how much, it really depends on how much you want. So, it is totally up to you. And I don't have any tomato paste, so I'm not going to add that, but you could add a little tomato paste that will act as a thickener to the sauce. This is not a cooked sauce. So this is a sauce that is going to be actually raw. I'm going to add some absolutely fresh basil. All right. And that's going in. Smells so good. That basil is just, summer for me. And then I'm just going to chop that. And you don't have to make the full recipe. Actually, I'm only making half of the recipe, so just how much you need. This is gonna be enough for one thing of dough, so you really don't have to make a full recipe of sauce if you don't want to. All right, so I'm gonna dump that into my bowl and get rid of that. We'll get rid of this little guy, and then I'm gonna add a little bit of salt because we had no seasoning in here. Tiny pinch of pepper. All right. And I'm going to just mix that together, and I'm going to taste that. Make sure that it has good seasoning, but fresh basil, fresh, tomato. I could have used fresh tomatoes, but I didn't have any. So we'll just use the ones in a can. In the winter, the ones in a can are absolutely appropriate. They taste really good. That's just summer in a bowl, guys. Fresh, tomatoes, basil, you can't ask for better. All right, so now we are going to start with our pizzas. And what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to flour my board, okay? And this is super, super easy to do. The first thing you want to do is you want to get your grill hot, okay? You want to be prepared. You want to get your grill really hot. And if you're making pizzas, you're going to do what's called indirect, setting it up as an indirect grill. So you're going to have one side of the grill super hot. The other side of the grill is going to be less hot, so maybe half the heat as the direct side. The reason being, so you're going to try to get that grill up to at least 400 to 500 degrees, and if you have a thermometer on your grill, that works beautifully. But if you don't, you can kind of put your hand over the top of the grill to see how hot it is, and it should be really pretty hot. You want pizza to cook on a pretty hot grill. That's how it gets nice and crispy and charred. But you don't want to put it on that really hot direct heat for a long, long time, because if you do, and you have it on there for the endurance of the time that you're going to cook it, it could burn. If you're seeing that it's getting a little too charred, move it aside. So this is the easy way to do this. Okay, I'm going to first take my dough out of the bowl, and we're just going to dump it right on the board. And I'm going to cut this. It's better. You can make one giant pizza if you really want to give yourself a headache. And if I was going to do half of this dough, I could take a sheet pan, just a regular, sheet pan. I could roll my dough out. I can put it on top of the sheet pan, and then I could use my sheet pan to kind of put it on the grate. If you cut this into smaller pieces, what I like to do is I like to kind of vary the toppings. So we always do maybe 4 pizzas, smaller pizzas out of one ball of dough. So I'm going to do 2, all right, and do 2 here. We'll put this back in the bowl. And I have my 2 pieces here. We'll put that one aside. And All right, so I just want to make sure my board is nice and floured. We're going to kind of make this a little bit of a circle so it doesn't come out weird. I kind of like sometimes to roll it just like this, because sometimes it looks like the Upper Peninsula when you've rolled it out. And I kind of think that's fun. It's like you get these long pizzas that are just they kind of go all over the place. I don't think that's a bad idea sometimes. It kind of makes it look fun because it is supposed to be very rustic, okay? So I am going to roll this dough, and then we're going to, this isn't going to be a terribly huge pizza. So you want to make sure, now this is going to spring back on you a little bit because it does have gluten in it. So you want to be sure that, you flour your board enough so that you can, and this one is kind of coming out a little scraggly too, so it's okay. All right. So there is my dough, okay, ready to go. And what we're going to do is we're going to oil one side of it, and got my brush. You can do one of two things here. I'm going to do very, very lightly. What you're going to do is you're going to oil one side, okay? And then you're going to oil the other side after it comes off the grill. So you're only going to cook one side first, and you also want to oil your grill. So take some paper towels, maybe some vegetable oil or some other kind of an oil. I use olive oil because I think it tastes good with pizza. So, but what we're going to do, and you can kind of, I hope you guys can see that what's happening in the back. Pratik's going to pick this up. The easiest way to do this, guys, is just to pick it up and then slap it on your grill, just like that. No rhyme or reason to it. It's just pick it up. The oiled side gets put down on your grill and you're good to go. Okay. So yeah, so that works really easily. I'm going to go ahead and start rolling this next one here.
Can they do the same thing on a charcoal grill?
Exactly the same thing. And a charcoal grill even works better with indirect heating because you can pile your coals on one side of the grill, and you can have the other side with no coals. Okay, so you have a 2-zone fire is what they call it. One zone is super hot, the other zone is not quite so hot. And then again, and to be honest with you, we do that in a lot of grilling. So if we're grilling something like chicken or, pork, where there might be a lot of fat involved and it starts to drip on the grill, if you only have a 1-zone fire, meaning it's only hot all over the grill, you end up, having that fat or whatever it is dripping down into the coals or on the propane, and it will burn. Okay, things tend to start burning and you start having flare-ups. If you have a 2-zone fire, when things start flaring up on you, the easy thing to do is move it to the indirect side, okay? And that works beautifully. So if it flares up, you've got it on the high heat, move it to the indirect heat, and then you won't have that issue. So now this is cooking. We are not going to cook the other side. We are only going to concentrate on the side that I oiled first, okay? Because what will happen is once that gets cooked, we're going to top our pizza, and then we're going to slap it back on the grill. So what I do a lot of times, if we have like people coming over and we want to do like top your own pizzas or lots of grilling, what we'll do is we will make a whole bunch of dough, and we will put them on a sheet pan, only having one side cooked, okay? And we can pile them up one on top of the other. So when after people top them, we throw it back on the grill on the raw side down, and then, your pizza is cooked and nice and hot, and it works beautifully. So you can feed a crowd with it, and you don't have, your pizzas aren't, cold and nasty and runny. It works out really well.
Could they do this the same in the oven?
You can. And there's a couple ways that you can do this in the oven. Before there was grilled pizza, there was oven baked pizza. People did it at home. So typically the way we do it in the oven is essentially the same way, but you want to get it really hot in the oven, and you really can't, but you can't slap it on the grate because your oven, some ovens get up to 500 degrees, but if you slap it on the grate, sometimes it's just not hot enough. The whole point of grilling it is when you slap it on that grate is so hot that it actually starts cooking that dough as soon as you slap it down. So it works really well that way. But if you have like a pizza stone or you can do it on a sheet pan, get the sheet pan super hot first, slap your dough on the sheet pan, put it in the oven, then you'd have a very, very good pizza too. So you
Okay,
can
great.
definitely do it in your oven too. Yes.
Great.
So I'm going to go ahead and roll this one. I don't want to mess this oil up. But you guys can see how this kind of bounces back at you. It's okay. Not a big thing. All right, we're going to flip it back over. And I'm not looking for perfection here, guys. I like the rusticness of a grilled pizza because it just looks like it was done on an open fire. I love that. I'm going to take a little bit of that oil. You want that oil on here because if you don't, then the pizza, the dough will stick to your grill, even though you have oiled it. And you really don't want that to happen because you're not going to have a good time trying to peel that off. It's going to just stick to it, and then you're going to have a real mess on your hands. So just make sure you oil that. Yeah. Okay, so Pratik's going to take this one, and we're going to slap it on the grill. Any questions?
If someone is using an oven, 450 or 500, what temperature?
Well, however high that oven goes.
Okay.
So if it goes up to 450, do it at 450. If it goes up to 500, do it at 500. You know, when you think about a pizza oven in a restaurant, in a pizza restaurant, it's at 700, 800, 900. I mean, some of them go higher than that. So you think about that and you kind of understand why you need it as hot as you need it. A grill will do that. A grill will kind of be a facsimile for a pizza oven in a restaurant. But a home oven, obviously, because it only cooks up to 500 degrees, you know, the assistance of putting it on a sheet pan or a pizza stone helps it to get crispy, okay? And that kind of works a little bit better. So here is my crust. You guys can see this is kind of a thin crust. I could have rolled it a lot less thick and had it more of a thicker crust, but it is done on one side. The other side is not done yet, okay? So completely raw. Now what we're gonna do is we are gonna start building our pizza. And I'm going to do 2 different types of pizzas for you today. I'm doing a grilled pizza margarita. One of our favorites to do on the grill is just pepperoni. So basically a grilled pizza margarita with pepperoni on it. My daughter is vegetarian, so because she has to eat part of the pizzas, we're going to just do a grilled margarita pizza, and that works out really easily. So basically, I'm going to use some of this sauce that we used, okay? And we're going to do some of the sauce. One of the keys to making a grilled pizza at home is not to put too many toppings on. You know, it's not like a pizza place where, you know, you get 20 different toppings on one pizza. The less is more on a grilled pizza because first of all, anything that goes on that pizza, you know, it has to heat up in the limited time that you have that pizza dough on the grill. And I do keep a little kind of a border. You know, it's kind of the same as making a regular pizza. I keep a border on it so it doesn't, you know, I don't have seepage. It's not going to start dripping down in the grill or whatever. Okay, and then I'm going to add to this some mozzarella cheese. And I use grated mozzarella, right? So we've got some mozzarella here. We'll talk about all the different things you can top a pizza with. So again, I love a lot of cheese, but I am not going to over cheese this pizza because it's going to start to be drippy and it's going to start to make your dough a little bit wet. So be really careful with that. Okay. All right. So there is my, and I have a little bit of Parmesan. Can you pass that to me? Perfect. The Parm. I have some, I like just because I like Parm and it kind of gives it a little bit of a saltiness because mozzarella is not real salty, so I like to use grated Parm on this. We're just going to sprinkle that just like that. All right, and I like a lot of it, but you know, again, less is more. And then I have, where's that basil? Yeah, fresh basil right from my plant out in the back here, which is awesome. We're just going to put some fresh basil. If you don't want to use shredded mozzarella, you can use balls of fresh mozzarella, works really well too. They can be a little harder to find, so I tend to think that people, you know, it's easier just to buy the, you know, the grated mozzarella, but, you know, whatever you want to do works, you know, whatever you have access to as far as ingredients. And I like a lot of basil, so we're going to put a lot of basil on this. All right, so this pizza is ready to go back on the grill. All right, and I am going to show you how to make the other pizza that we're going to do, which is and this is one of our favorites. We typically always make it when we do grilled pizzas at home, just because it tastes so good. We're doing a grilled pear, blue cheese, and arugula pizza. So just, it is really good, guys. It's like a gourmet pizza, but super easy to make at home. So we're going to start with, I have the dough is already made. I'm going to do, and then we're not going to put any sauce on this one. So we're going to do a little bit of mozzarella on this. Oh, actually, before I do that, sorry, guys, I'm going to brush this with a little oil. Okay. And the oil will help that mozzarella stick. So, these are pretty easy to handle. You guys can see that I can pick it up and everything. It's not like, it's not like a raw dough, because this is partially cooked. It's cooked halfway through. So I'm going to, add enough oil to this. All right. And then I have mozzarella going on. Just like that. And we'll talk in a minute about, I want to tell you all these different toppings you can put on it, but I want to get this one done first so you guys can see what it looks like. So that other pizza, the margarita pizza that we put in, is going to take about 3-4 minutes to cook, because you want to make sure that your dough at this point is going to be cooked all the way through. If you're rolling that a little bit smaller and you're not making it a real thin crust pizza, you want to make sure that it is it's going to cook all the way through. If it doesn't, you're going to end up with raw pizza dough on the inside, and nobody likes that. Okay, so we're adding our mozzarella. We're going to top it with some sliced onion, red onion, and I like to do super thin, so I like to use a mandolin. So we just kind of very thinly sliced onion. You don't have to do an awful lot, but so it kind of gives it that little bit of a bite. Okay, and then I kind of arrange it here. Any ones that kind of flipped off my pizza, we're going to throw it back. The onion is really good on this. It gives it kind of a little bit of a bite. Okay, and then I'm going to use fresh pear, and I'm going to do the same thing. We're just going to use a mandolin so that I can cut this super, super thin. Okay, just be careful when you use one of these guys. They can be dangerous. So be really careful. And I'm using the thinnest setting on that mandolin. So we're going to just arrange those pear slices so they go all over that pizza dough. All right, because you want everybody who has a bite of that pizza to be able to taste it. Okay, and then we're going to add some blue cheese, some crumbled blue cheese. And boy, I should have opened this before I came out here today. And whatever blue cheese you want, I'm just using, I think, a Danish blue, which is real nice. And you can get blues at Kroger or wherever. They're easy to find these days. And I try to keep it in the fridge at least up until I'm going to crumble it, because if you don't, it becomes a little bit like soft and mushy. But I love the blue cheese on here. It goes so good with the pears. So we're going to throw that on. All right.
Do you know what brand your mandolin is?
It is an OXO. It's an OXO, and it's one that only has 2 settings on it. And I love it because I use it strictly for doing red onion, really thinly sliced red onion and stuff like that. I love it for that. So it works out really, really well. But again, this is ceramic, and it's extremely, extremely sharp. So I have a guard, but when your food gets really small, use the guard. Okay, I am going to put on here some arugula, and we love arugula on this because it's peppery. It has that little bit of a peppery bite to it. So we're going to throw a little bit of arugula on here, just like this. So, I mean, come on, guys, this is a gourmet pizza that you can make so simply at home. No 2 ways about it. Really easy. All right. And you put out, don't put an awful lot, but enough that it will cover the pizza. All right. And then Pratik will go ahead and slap that back on the grill. So here is my margarita pizza. So how do I know if my pizza's done? Well, first of all, I'm going to look on the back end, and you can see that the back end looks like the front end did. And it's going to be, you want to make sure that it's cooked all the way through. And then what I always do is I let that pizza rest for a minute. Sounds weird, but it really makes a difference. First of all, you're not handling a super hot pizza, and you're not letting that cheese kind of ooze out all over your counter, all over your board or your sheet pan. if you cut it, you know, you want that cheese to stay in its place, so that, you know, if you let it rest for just a minute or two, and I'm not saying like 5 minutes, just really, I know they look really good and you want to really bite into it, but you know, it just really pays to let it rest for a minute. Okay. So at this point, we're going to cut this. And honestly, I just cut it any which way I can. Okay. And we get nice pieces like this, guys. And that is our grilled pizza, our grilled margarita pizza. Super, super easy to do. Real crunchy on the crust. And that's what I'm looking for. But the dough is nicely cooked on the inside. And the cheese is, how do you tell if it's done? Well, essentially, you're going to tell by looking at the dough. And you're also going to tell if the cheese melts. If the cheese hasn't melted, the pizza's not done yet. So you gotta, you know, you gotta make sure that whatever cheese you top that pizza with, it's gonna be done. Okay, it's gonna be melted. So while we're still working on this other pizza, it's gonna be another minute. Let's talk about some of the other things, kind of a few pointers. One of the things I wanted to mention is that you, anything that you top a pizza with has to be cooked. Okay, so if you're going to put sausage on here, you have to pre-cook the sausage. If you're going to put, I want to say like caramelized onions, you have to caramelize the onions separately. That pizza's not on the grill long enough to cook those ingredients on the pizza. You have to make sure that anything you put on this pizza is pre-cooked. So anything like, you know, sausage, I mentioned the caramelized onions, and you could do roasted peppers are delicious on a grilled pizza. You know, anything that is, you know, just a little bit, that needs to have a little bit of softness. If you were going to do cauliflower on a grilled pizza, I would roast the cauliflower first and then let it go to that point. Okay, so it works really well. So this one is done. The lettuce is wilted. The blue cheese is melty. I'm going to take, can I have that balsamic? They sell this balsamic glaze in a lot of places, guys. You can just take a little bit of this. It's just basically balsamic vinegar that has been really reduced and kind of like super, super thick and acts like a little glaze on your pizza. So it kind of gives it a little bit of sweetness, which is really delicious. So again, this pizza is done. I'm going to cut it right down the middle. And we're going to show you how this works. Okay, so there is my pear and arugula and blue cheese pizza. Super simple, and I'm telling you guys, this is really, it's almost like a dessert pizza. It's so good. It's not that sweet, but you know, it has a tinge of that little tinge of sweetness to it, especially with the pears and the balsamic. Any questions so far?
If I asked, your recipe says to top the pizza with arugula after it's cooked.
You can, and actually, I like to put it on before it's cooked, you know, as it cooks, because I like when it wilts down a little bit. But I've had one of the best pizzas that I've ever had is a parsley pizza, which is really cool. It's like you take parsley, like Italian parsley, and you make a little tossed salad with it, with like a lemon vinaigrette and a little bit of garlic. And you just, that's all it is basically a little olive oil, some cheese, and then you top that salad. Once it's cooked, once the pizza is all cooked, you top it with that fresh parsley salad. And it's like salad and bread together in one course. It's just so delicious. But I could take a little bit of arugula. I could put a little bit of, you know, the arugula right from the box, or I could take some fresh basil and add it to the margarita pizza. I just find that sometimes it's easier just to put it on before you grill it, because it's not going to be on there that long, and it's not like the basil or the arugula are going to burn. So, you know, you can do it either way. Either way works really well. All right. So,
Madeline says Tabouli on pizza.
Oh, tabbouleh? Yes, why not? Oh my gosh. I would put, you know, to be honest with you, would be a phenomenal pizza is a little bit of hummus and then a little bit of tabbouleh on at when it comes out, and maybe some grated onion like I did here. Oh my God, that would be a fantastic pizza. So, you know, I mean, there are so many options. The only thing you have to remember when you're exploring those options is not to overload it. Okay. I did a class one time with grilling pizza, and I did it, and it kind of goes the same way when you're doing pizza in the oven, because sometimes when you overload it, stays really raw in the middle. Even those ingredients that you've loaded on top of that pizza are going to stay pretty raw in the middle. And when you go to put the pizza in the oven, I remember this one lady, it was make your own pizza, and she put the pizza in the oven and all those things slid right off the pizza. Oh my gosh, what a mess. But you know, I mean, you live and learn. It was just the way it was. But the less is more when it comes to grilling a pizza. So just remember that. When you're doing a pizza, make sure that you have everything ready. You know, all your sauce is ready, your cheese is ready. Because once it comes off the grill, you want to be able to top it right away. So when you are doing like pizza for a crowd, or, you know, even for your family, just make sure that in your kitchen, you have everything, you know, set to go, you know, your cheese in bowls, your sauce ready to go, and then bring it out. And, you know, pizzas only take maybe 6 to 7 minutes each to cook. So depending on how thick you want them. All right. So, yeah, so let me think of what other things I wanted to tell you for, so there's a few other things. You could do all kinds of different cheeses on pizzas. Soft cheeses work really well because they melt really well. So like a provolone would work really well on this. You could do like an Italian pizza with like salami, some mortadella, if you want to just stick with pepperoni. But you can vary the cheeses. Goat cheese works beautifully on a pizza. If you're a goat cheese fan, this pear pizza would go really well with goat cheese. Some people aren't really too keen on it, so I always, you know, the blue cheese works. You could even do feta. Feta is a phenomenal cheese to put on a pizza because it doesn't melt really well, but it kind of stays, but it gets warm and it gets kind of soft, so it tastes really good. Figs are in season right now. Fresh figs on a pizza work really well, and that would go really well on a pizza like this. Hot peppers like jalapenos or pepperoncini. You could do pineapple on a pizza. I know there's those people that, you know, no pineapple on pizza, but I think a grilled pizza kind of works a little bit different. You could even do pineapple rings on a pizza like this, where it's real thin, and then maybe put some feta on it. And, you know, that would be a really delicious pizza. Olives, like the same thing that you always make. Instead of putting your tomato sauce that we made, put a layer of pesto on the pizza. So if you've got a lot of basil at home, you know, make a little bit of pesto. It's just basically in your food processor, fresh basil, garlic, a little bit of lemon juice, and then some oil. And as the processor's running, you drizzle the oil until it becomes a paste. You can add nuts to it, which is really delicious. Traditionally, it's pine nuts, but you almost have to mortgage your home to buy pine nuts these days. They're so expensive. So, you know, you could do walnuts, you could do pecans. Nobody says you have to stick to a formula, but a little layer of pesto would be delicious on any pizza. What else was I going to mention? You know, fresh tomatoes, even tomato slices, or a lot of people grow a lot of cherry tomatoes and eat little cherry tomatoes on the pizza. You could even roast them in the oven before you make your pizza and have like almost like a sun-dried tomato on your pizza. It's really delicious. So you have a ton of different options to put on your pizzas.
Yeah, Rita mentioned all the ones you said, and then she also said mushrooms.
Oh, mushrooms. If you're going to do mushrooms, you can do raw, absolutely, really thinly sliced. And I would even use my mandolin to thinly slice them. If you want cooked mushrooms, you just have to saute them beforehand to make sure they're nice and soft. But absolutely, mushrooms are delicious on a pizza. I love them.
Mandolin, or mandolin. Sorry, I'm thinking about, you picked it up, so I said mandolin. Yeah. Madeline said, could you make a dessert pizza?
Yes, I have made a dessert pizza. So basically what you do with a dessert pizza is to do the grill, do the crust. Okay, get that all grilled. And you can then add chocolate sauce to it, and you can add like strawberries on top of it. And yeah, I've done that before. So, and I would even like macerate the strawberries in something, a little bit of sugar, so that they get a little juicy, and then add that to your pizza. It would be delicious. Yeah, I've done that before. One of my other favorite pizzas is like a breakfast. I call it a breakfast pizza. Basically, a little bit of smoked salmon with thinly sliced red onion and some fresh dill, and maybe like a little bit of like a dill sauce to go on top of it. It is phenomenal. A little bit of onion, you know, really goes well with it. So the possibilities are really, truly endless.
Sounds like it. If anybody has any question, go ahead and unmute yourself and go ahead and ask away.
I expect everybody to go out and start grilling your pizzas instead of buying them from, we're going to put Domino's out of business, guys.
Yes.
They're so good. And you saw how easy it is. Really, it is easy. And again, if you're not a dough maker, you can certainly get them in the grocery store, get dough, at a good market, or, I know that pizza places do sell it too.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. Some of them will. I know people have told me that they've gotten them there. I don't know which ones, but it doesn't hurt to walk in and ask, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, you took the fear away. It did look pretty easy.
It is. And I guess maybe one of my biggest tips too is don't roll your dough too big, because if you roll it too big, it's kind of hard to handle. So I think that this is a perfect size. Can I have that other one too? So, I think this size is absolutely perfect. It's easy to pick up. You can slap it on easily. We've done bigger pizzas, but they're a little bit more work. So what we do when we make a really big pizza is we flip our sheet pan upside down. So if I do this, I could take this sheet pan and I would flip it upside down like this. I would lay my dough on the sheet pan, make sure this is nice and oiled. And then I would take my sheet pan and flip the dough onto my grill just like that. Okay, and that will ensure that big piece of dough makes it on the grill without it folding or dropping down into the grill. But again, like I said, to be honest with you, it's just so much easier to make a little bit of a smaller pizza and you don't have to worry about that whole thing. So, and you can pick it up with your hands. It works beautifully.
Yeah, it looks like something perfect for two hands,
Absolutely. Yeah, works well. And it feeds a lot. I mean, one ball of dough will make 4 pizzas and it will feed a lot of people. So you have, a lot to work with.
Yeah. Wow. Let's see. People are just saying thank you. Wonderful class. Looks so delicious. Thank you. Anxious to try the pear pizza. Loved your suggestions. So
you're welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining me. I'm so glad that you are interested, and I just hope you guys go out and do it because we love it. I mean, we grill pizzas at least 3 or 4 times in the summer. It's just fun and easy,
Oh, just 3 or 4? My husband has pizza every week.
I would love it more often too. It's, what I mean? It's like, yeah, I love it. Sometimes I'll just make the dough in the morning and then, put it in the fridge and have it overnight and let it come to room temperature the next day. And there you go, make your pizza or freeze it. You can freeze pizza dough too. So if you want to make, make two balls of it, you've got the food processor dirty, make 2 balls of dough, freeze one, use the other one. And then in 2 weeks, you can make another pizza. So,
and how would you freeze it in a plastic bag or in a bowl?
Just like a Ziploc bag, make sure it's airtight. Yeah, it works beautifully. And when you take it out of the freezer, let it come to room temperature, it will start to rise a little bit more and then you should be good to go.
All right. Wow. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much, Mary. Thank you everyone for coming. And we will be having Mary again. She's doing a holiday Christmas gifts that we can make to give out, and it's going to be in, let's see, November 6th.
Yes.
So put it on your calendars. Yep. Holiday gifts from your kitchen, or actually from Mary's kitchen, so
seriously, guys. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, Denise. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
All right.
Bye-bye.